What's going on, guys? And we got a crazy vlog today because it's my first time in Berlin ever. So I'm in the train station currently and it's insane. You can see that there's like 10 different levels, and this is actually not even the highest level that I'm standing on. You can see above me there's yet another level, because basically based on the type of train that comes, it goes to a different level. So the regional trains go at the very top there, and then like the intercity trains, the fast high-speed trains, they actually are at the basement level, it seems. So the one thing is, you would never want to come to the train station right when the train's leaving, because there's no chance of finding your train, it seems, just because of how crowded it is. But yeah, I'm pretty much just gonna walk around. I'm here for 6 hours today because I'm not staying overnight, but I'm gonna try to make the most of it, and I'll definitely show you guys the sights since the city has so much history. So guys, here's yet another view of the Berlin Hauptbahnhof. So I actually came from here and then entered from there. You can see the train shed is just above, and it seems, since there's no other bridge, that the intercity trains, so the high-speed trains, they actually go underneath the river, because you can see there's the regional trains, and they have a very nice chalk kind of beige color. It's really beautiful. And there's also on the lower portion a burgundy. You can see the burgundy right there, or red. It's a really beautiful color scheme, and I've noticed many of the trains have this kind of design. But anyways, given that there's no second bridge, the high-speed trains must actually be going underneath the river, which I also find really interesting. It's also the case that whenever you take a high-speed train in Germany, it always says, or to Berlin, it always says Berlin Hauptbahnhof Deep, or TF, which is the word for deep in German, because that's what's supposed to signify that you're going into the underground portion of the in the train station, as opposed to the above ground. All right, guys, so it's insane. Right here beside me, you have the Reichstag-Gebäude, which is the Reichstag building, or like pretty much the kind of like the parliament in Canada, or in the US, like the Capitol Hill. I'm not sure what it's called there, but this is basically where all of the federal public servants work, so like the president and the chancellor. But even cooler, in my opinion, behind me, you have the Brandenburg Gate right there, which is literally the dividing line between West and East Berlin during the basically the time where there was two German nations. So I'm gonna go right there right away and check it out, because there's so much history associated with those gates. All right, guys, so I just checked out the Brandenburg Gate. It's really amazing. I might have been mixing it up with Checkpoint Charlie. I'm actually not sure if this was a place where the border was laid for the East and West Berlin, but I'm almost certain that that is the case. There's also, in this vicinity where the 18th of March protests occurred in 1848, so a very long time ago. And that was essentially the first time ever that any notion of democracy was demanded in Berlin. And that was after a kind of widespread revolution in all of Europe, which also occurred in Vienna and Paris and Munich, according to the sign. So it's also a site that commemorates all those people who died fighting for the first ever democracy in Germany, or Berlin rather. So very interesting memorial that I'm currently at, and I wasn't sure on which side of the former Berlin I was, but now it is quite evident that this is the Soviet side. So you can see there you have like one Soviet tank, and there's a red star on it. I'm not sure if it's apparent, but there's one on each. And then here you have the main memorial. You can see the hammer and sickle, if I'm not mistaken, there. And then everything's in Russian or some Cyrillic language. And you have a Soviet attired soldier. So this must be, as it's indicated, 1941 to 1945, which is the period of time that Nazi Germany was fighting the Soviet Union. Or I'm not sure if they were a Soviet Union, but anyways, the Russian Empire. So this must be commemorating all the soldiers that died during those fighting in the Eastern Front. But it's quite interesting that the only language on everything is only Russian. Does make sense, but even I would expect that they would have it in German as well. It's just cool. And they even have an artillery on both sides, it seems. So it's a nice little symmetric monument. And other than the fact that I can't read, it's pretty evident that it's for the Soviet soldiers that died during the Second World War. So I've just been through the Tierpark, or the Animal Park, I guess, Animal Garden, which is the biggest park in Germany. In Berlin, it seems. It's just a massive garden, and in the middle, you have right here the Berlin Victory Column. So it's a a statue of Victoria. I think that's one of the Greek gods of victory, but that might be Nike, so I'm not entirely sure. And it was actually built in 1871 after the coronation of Wilhelm I, the emperor of the German Empire, as a sign of victory. And it was also used to basically compete with the other two major victory columns, one in Paris and the other in London, which were basically the signs of the prominence of the capital cities. So when they reunified the German Empire with Berlin as a capital city, they chose this as the first ever monument. It was somehow miraculously not damaged extensively during the Second World War, and even though there were some pushes to destroy it and demolish it after the Second World War, I guess they didn't want to restore it, or they also wanted to remove this as a sign of perhaps renewed Nazism. It stayed and it was restored, especially in the 21st century when they redid the guild, so like the gold plating. And yeah, there's 285 steps to go to the very top. You can go all the way up there. I'm not sure how it works, but as you can see, there's also a very massive roundabout which traverses the monument. So you actually have to go underground, similar to the Arc de Triomphe, to access it, which I will be doing shortly. So guys, I've now arrived in the kind of secluded section of the traffic where the monument stands. And you'll notice here that on each side, you have a very long kind of iron bust of some historical scene. One of them was from the Germanic War of 1866, which was against the Prussians and the Austrians, and most of the German states were on the Austrian side. In fact, the Prussians won that war. But nevertheless, you have 4 of these on each side. And after World War II, it actually seems that it was the French who were the most adamant to have this monument demolished because it was an eyesore in their opinion. And even though they were unable to do that, they did take all 4 of these. So you have one here. I'll start walking towards the next one. There's one on each side. And they brought them to Paris as a sort of kind of revenge, I guess, for being attacked in the beginning of the war. But in fact, you can see that they're here today. And these are the original ones. This is the second one, which were returned ceremonially in 1984 and 1987 as a symbol of the rekindling of the friendship between the two countries, which had prior to been intense rivals. It's interesting to note as well that they had suffered some damage throughout their transport from Berlin to Paris and back to Berlin, but those were purposely not were not redone or not made back to the original state. And you can somewhat notice that, it seems, with a bit of imperfections along the memorial. So you can actually go all the way to the top. However, I might be just waiting until next week because I'll come with my friend Landon to Berlin next week, and we'll just go then. And since I'm kind of running out of time, I'd prefer to see some more stuff since I'm going to come back anyways. So yeah, that's all for here. I also wanted to quickly note before I go that there's 2 main entrances. It's kind of interesting. So you have one here that goes underneath and one on the diametrically opposed side of this circle, but this one is actually a T, so it goes underneath and then it splits. You can get out of that side or equivalently that building. So you can see that it will go underground, and then yeah, you can pretty much either go in that direction or in that direction. So it splits off into a T. So there's only 2 entrances here, but 4 exits. I'll just quickly show you guys the underground section. So that was the exit, and then here you can see at that dead end, it splits off into both directions. And in fact, you have this cool sensor that, if you look, tracks my movement, which is really interesting with lights. And I was wondering how it's done, but it seems with these sensors there, it detects your movement and it tracks it, which is pretty. I'm still in the vicinity of the Golden Column, but along the perimeter, there are many monuments to essentially prominent figures of their eras. Of course, here you have Bismarck. There's also a statue of Atlas there, the guy who has the curse of having told the earth, and 2 other perhaps Greek or Roman figures. But yeah, he seems to be one of the most venerated figures in German history, so it's no surprise that he has a massive monument. There's also one here, if you notice. His name is R-O-O-N, Rune. I have no idea who that is. And then if you look through the trees, there's another one here, this time in marble. It's not that visible, but you'll actually notice it just there through the foliage. I'm going to check out who that is in a few instants, but I also wanted to comment quickly that those 4 plaques on each side of the Golden Column are called reliefs, I had the word in my mind, but it escaped me during my time there at the Golden Column, so excuse my poor vocabulary, but that is the correct term. And yeah.